Hi guys, this time we're looking at painting the skin. Um, Pretty much the same techniques as I used last time for the skirt. Shading first, blending it out into the base layer, and then highlighting it with a different colour. Again, the video's at 4 times normal speed, simply to make this actually watchable. I'm fairly sure you don't want to watch 40 minutes of me painting, whereas 10 minutes will do fine. So the colours I actually used on this, the base colour is the Vallejo model colour, base flesh. It's quite a nice sort of generic flesh tone, there's nothing special about it. The shading, I actually used the English uniform. It's a sort of strange greeny brown, and that's a Vallejo model colour as well. And for the highlight I used a sort of off-white from Game Colour. Um, with the skin colour being so light, white tends to get used as a highlight colour, but again, the same as with the skirt that I was highlighting previously, I didn't want to use pure white because it would end up too stark, too cold. So I used an off-white, which has got sort of a touch of yellow in it to just keep it warm. And it's essentially a matter of sort of layering and gently sort of feathering the edge of each of the colours until you get the sort of desired effect. I started on the leg because it gives the most contrast. You've got sort of very much a very dark area under the leg there and a very light area on top of the leg, and it's very easy to work out what's what. Did a bit of work sort of around the kneecap with sort of working out how the sort of highlighting and shading will work there. The bow, the quiver, got in the way quite a bit, which was irritating. But there wasn't a great deal I could do about that. And I tend to sort of skip backwards and forwards between areas when I'm painting, mainly to let sort of colours dry, but also to sort of get a feel for how it looks in comparison to other areas. Now on the face, what I wanted to do is, because she's sort of looking down and sort of down the arrow, I wanted one side of her face to be quite dark, and the other side to be quite light, to sort of show that sort of effect of sort of one side being sort of more towards the light than the other side. I had a bit of trouble with her forehead. It just wasn't coming out right. There was sort of spotty areas appearing. It doesn't show up too much on the video, but I went back in again with the base tone and just repainted it and left that to dry. So I came back to the leg just to touch up and put a sort of higher highlight on it. Came back to the face, started putting some more of a highlight on there again, and I ended up with something that I was fairly happy with. I didn't paint the eyes. I'm intending the original miniature I painted, the previous version of Arfenil. I put a sort of a greenish eyeshadow on, and sort of coloured in the lips as well to give her sort of a bit of makeup, if you will, and that works quite well. So I'm going to do something similar to that for this miniature as well. Not sure how I'm going to do that, or whether it's going to be sort of the same colours as I used previously. It probably will be. Quite like it. I basically used the same green as was with the dress, so that it provides that sort of continuation of colours. It's always good for a colour scheme if parts of your miniature are echoing other parts. So with that, the makeup was echoing the dress, so that really helped sort of bring the whole miniature together, if you will. And a lot of times, actually picking a sort of a shade color for skin tone is actually quite difficult. Your first instinct is to just go for a darker sort of cream color and go sort of a red, which really doesn't work. They end up looking like they've got some kind of burn or a disease or something, which looks really wrong. A lot of places say to go for a sort of greenish colour, which does work if you've got a very sort of dark skin, not necessarily sort of African dark, but sort of very tanned skin. A greenish shade can work quite well with that. With this sort of light skin, I found the sort of the combination of the reddish and the greenish, giving that sort of greeny brown that the English uniform colour is, works really well. Here I'm just doing the arm. Yeah, found a bit of flashing that I hadn't cleaned off, and unfortunately it's just going to have to stay there. The miniatures, now that the miniature's built, it's just too delicate to actually try and scrape off any flashing that's still on there now. The arm I did built up some sort of the muscle mass a little bit, sort of put some shading on the top where the sort of the muscles would go. Obviously, being a female miniature, the muscles aren't as defined as they would be on a male miniature. Certainly, in terms of sort of these kind of miniatures, the females tend to be sort of quite thin, lithe, athletic, whereas the male miniatures tend to be sort of extreme bodybuilders, if you will, sort of muscles poking out of pretty much everywhere. Quick go around on the chest, again just sort of highlighting under the chest area, bit of shading under the breasts, nothing particularly special under there. The hand, I'd love to have got a decent close-up of the hand. If nothing else, it would have made it a sight easier to paint, being able to see it on the camera as well as in front of me. Because I've got the camera sat right in front of me, it's quite hard to actually sort of get close enough to the miniature to paint in detail. But I was fairly pleased with how the hand came out in the end. Again, sort of highlighting and shading between the fingers and things like that. And evidently I didn't realise that it had gone out of focus for quite some time at this point in time. There we go. So again, sort of the highlighting on the top of the hand. I did try and sort of zoom in a bit closer, but the camera just wasn't having it. So highlighting on top of the hand, shading underneath. Again, nothing special, nothing rocket science about it. A bit of shading sort of on the palm of the hand there where it's gripping the bow. I still need to colour in the bow grip. That'll probably be maybe in a sort of cream or a sort of greyish brown maybe, or something along those lines. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to have a think about that. As far as the face is concerned, I honestly don't know whether I'm going to be able to paint the eyes on camera. I'm not very good at painting eyes at the best of times. It usually takes me 4, 5, 6 more attempts before I'm actually happy with the way the eyes look, and half the time it's complete fluke. What I will do is put together a video on how I paint eyes, and it's just one of the sort of many ways. Other people paint eyes in different ways. There are several ways to paint eyes, but this is a particular one that I've found that works for me. I know there's some people out there who they'll actually paint the eyes before they actually start on the skin tone. I can't do that. I'm too much of a messy painter to do that kind of thing. It's a bit difficult to see because the video is sped up, but there was a few times when I actually ended up touching the green with sort of the highlight of the shade colour, and I have to wash the brush off quickly and sort of brush it off and water it down so it doesn't actually have any effect on the colour. But anyway, so yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I'm actually going to be able to paint the eyes on camera, simply because it's so difficult to get close to the miniature. I will have a go. We'll see how it goes. But as I said, I'll produce a video on how I paint eyes, and I'll sort of draw them on paper and sort of make them nice and big so it's obvious how I'm doing it. Other than that, a little bit of clean up on the leg there. And you can see underneath the leg is on the shin bone there is going to be quite dark, simply because of the angle that it's at. And yeah, pretty happy with the way she came out.